We welcome you all to the Automated Database Testing webinar. My name is Chintan Pala and I am Assistant Manager Marketing at TestingWhiz. And I'm very excited to being with you and sharing these insights. I have my colleague, Mr. Nirav Sanghvi. He is a product lead of TestingWhiz and he's been to the very base of the product. And now, as we proceed with this webinar, I would like to share you some of the details regarding the screen that you must be seeing, few functionalities on your console. It will be helpful for us to maintain and interact with all the audiences that we have, all the wonderful audiences that we have. And now on the right hand side, you must be seeing a panel. I'll be having a chat button, a chat tab where you can enter your queries and questions or whatever that raises questions or any type of suggestions that you have while session. You can please enter into that box and we'll be answering all your queries and even suggestions at the end of this webinar. So now proceeding with today's topic, as it deals with databases. Now when the word database comes, it's a very critical component of applications, whether it can be a mobile, cloud, or an web app. So our today's speaker is experienced professional with sound techniques which he has delivered to almost all our clients and have successfully delivered more than 15,000 downloads for this app. So proceeding with this webinar, we are sponsored by Signal Infotech. It's a software development and technology solution company empowering small, medium, and large enterprises, delivering IT services and products. TestingWhiz is a product of Signal Infotech. Signal Infotech is CMI Level 3 company, ISO 9001, ISO 27001, and have various certifications including ISTQB Silver Partner. So let's talk something about TestingWhiz. So as you see in the screen, it has a small pictorial representation of our USP, which clearly defines we have our major expertise on automated database testing, functional UI testing, cross-browser testing, distributed test execution. It's very easy and intuitive, makes your productivity to on higher grounds and gives you a smarter edge for test automation. We are already featured in Tech Target, SD Times, CNET, Better Software, and Economic Times. So proceeding with this, I would like my colleague to take over the webinar and initiate with this wonderful topic. I'll recommend you all to please download our TestingWhiz Enterprise Edition and please go through the demo that Mr. Nirav is going to have and enjoy the wonderful session. I'd like to tell you even that we are already on Twitter with the handle iTestingWhiz. We'll be answering all your queries even on all social media fronts. Please don't hesitate to tweet or post on Facebook. We are already there supporting you on every front. Thank you. Over to you, Nirav. Please take it further.
Thank you very much, Chintan. Hi all, good morning. This is Nirav and we'll be proceeding with the webinar. So the agenda for today's webinar is to tour you through the importance of an automation strategy for database testing. What could be the common challenges while we are dealing and drafting the automation strategy for database testing? How a tool could be used to automate various aspects like data comparison testing, data validation testing, various kind of database health checks. So I'll be showing you a live demo with the tool TestingWhiz. And we'll be starting with the first question. I was talking to the QA manager and DBA at Signet that database testing is merely the job of consultant, or do at all I need that? So over that conversation, I could summarize a few thoughts like data is really a critical form of business for all kind of companies ranging from an e-commerce to pharmaceuticals and banking to insurance. For all of them, data is really an asset. With varying complexity and heterogeneous environments, companies do have different forms of strategies and tests in place. It might be manual, it might be automated, it might be the mixture of both. So how many times it would have happened that the code changes has been deployed to the production server, but the schema changes are not rolled out, and it would result in chaos because the UI is available but the backend is not. So this is a kind of small smoke testing process to be executed by either the QA engineer or the support engineer, or at times by the DBAs. If the data is a culprit, it could result in issues producible over production servers, which could never be produced on QA servers. So at times we try to tend and believe that application is at fault, but it can also be the case that data itself is culprit. So there should be proper checks in place which can make sure that the data is integrated. There might be cases wherein some rights are given to some user on temporary basis, but the network operation team has forgotten revoking the rights. And when we remember this and try and look at the system after some period of time, we might think that there is an intrusion in the system. So there should be proper checks in place which can make sure that the possible number of users who are given an access are legitimate. So all of this will be forming your automation strategy, but it is really important to distinguish things like, or the problems like database crashes, recovery, broken insertions, updations or deletions. They might not be the part of your automation strategy. So I'll be giving a very quick brief on the importance of automation strategy for database testing. If the strategy is not built, what it could lead to is keep on repeating the same test again and again, or forget a few most important test cases, and finally it can cost you huge in terms of time and money. So it is really vital to have a separate test plan for database testing. It is also vital to identify regular database tests to cover data validation, schema verification, standard checks, security checks, and health check. This should be the part of your automation strategy for sure. At times we have seen that it is time who is not permitting you to write down and cover all the positive, negative, and monkey testing scenarios, even with the bunch of data. So it could be very wise to note down all the possible scenarios, identify the risks associated with them, provide the ranking of 1 to 5, and then try and complete automation for the most highest risky modules. That is what we call at Signet as risk-based testing. So once we have RBT in place for database scripts, it will definitely balance out time, cost, and quality aspects. Further adding on to this, we'll be taking a look at the possible pieces for strategy on database testing. The first and foremost thing is to identify the scope. As we were discussing earlier, the scope for data verification, schema verification, possible health checks, database guideline checks, security checks, and lot more could be included or clearly stated as excluded from the scope of database testing. Once we are done with identifying the scope, it's time to prepare the test scripts. These test scripts could be the combination of logical flow, plain SQL queries, PL/SQL blocks, conditional execution, or at times even to the integration with lot of other tools. As soon as the scripts are prepared and executed, it is time to do the data certification. When we say data certification, it might be the query to query comparison, or you have some previously executed queries and results are available. You would like to benchmark those data against the fresh query that you are trying to execute and come up with the results. Or it could be cross table or cross database heterogeneous checks on data. So it is based on the queries that you are writing. You could definitely do better forms of data certification. Once things are prepared, it's time to execute the scripts. You could execute the script and check if the script is at fault or not. This is a part of unit testing for your database automation scripts. We being a DBA or system admin would definitely love to look at the reports if it is being produced by the tool, because at times we have been struggling hard to dig into the zeros and ones and the statements to find out better reporting for our managers. So if the kind of logs available to us which can produce the charts for managers, some logs for my database team or development team, some text, or in case there is a crash, there should be an out-of-box support so that an email is triggered and is being sent out to the development team to have the corrective measures. So all sort of drill down reporting should be possible. Once the execution is over, the next job is to do post-execution monitoring and some tasks like if a bug is found, go and post that bug in standard bug tracking tools like Jira or Semantis or Fogbugs. Or at times, if you are using some test management tools, you definitely would like to have results and execution history stored in test management tools like QC or TestLink. So this is the part of post-execution monitoring and execution. Once things are stabilized and you are through with your unit testing, it's time to put those scripts on scheduled jobs so that you can have regression activities up and going. And finally, whatever are the findings from exclusive database testing, it should be cross-checked with the other UI testing done with or without automation. So this will formalize your automation strategy for database testing. It is a separate and exclusive plan just to carry out the database testing. It is obvious that there could be steps up and down wherein based on varying complexity you might take some shortcuts, you might skip a few steps, or you might introduce a few custom steps to meet your scenarios. With this background, since we are forming some strategies, there is bound to have some challenges. To start with, the project development and product development has gone agile these days. It means there would be frequent releases. While there are frequent application releases, the time to do all kind of testing would be scarce and it would be labeled as a big challenge. So unless there is an automation available, you may not be able to sign off all the builds that is going in and out in the application. With varying team and geolocated teams, if it's a big team, it is really hard to enforce the standards that is already set and the best practices that everybody should be following. So unless there is a concrete mechanism for monitoring, it is really hard to get rid of this particular challenge. So there must be some form of automation available which can take care of these things. With growing capacity in data and keep on adding features for an ongoing product, it is really vital that there would be a lot of changes keep on happening on database schema. And in order to meet those requirements, it is also vital and important that you keep on revisiting your database scripts. So the maintenance aspects should be such that the scripts that you are preparing should be scalable and it should be meeting all the future needs as well. Data integrity test, it is always tricky, and especially with the large amount of data, it is really hard sometimes to find out bugs and keep track of that. As we mentioned earlier, repetitive database testing cycles is really tough unless regression aspects are set, because every now and then if the application is getting released, once the application is released, there should be constant monitoring keep on happening over there. So be it Christmas, be it Sunday, or be it Saturday night, there should be somebody who keeps an eye to check things are okay or not, and it is only machine who can do this, right? A lot of times issues are not producible on staging or QA environment, but they do appear on production environment. So the challenge is to find out the culprit, whether it is application code that the development team has produced or data entry operator who has entered some bad data and data is culprit. So it is really hard to find the culprit. So with tools, how tools can help and what all kind of things could be automated. To start with, data integrity checks. So depending on the circumstances and the policy, it might be possible that we would like to simulate and copy out data from production to QA environment. Obviously, there would be some monitoring needed to be done, some NDAs to be signed up before we could dump all the production data to staging environment. But if some tool is available, this would really help us mimicking the production environment to the QA environment, and then we can keep on checking if the QA instance and production instance is in sync or not. Performance checks. So if I know that my application is going to be on knees if some particular tables would be heavily loaded by say X amount of rows. So if I would like to check that if some objects are being heavier at some particular point of time, I need to do some cleanup actions. There should be some form of automation applied so that it will keep on checking with the help of some simple queries on those aspects, and it will report back the instances where threshold is breached. So could be done. Database schema check. So as earlier we were discussing that code changes has been deployed on production environment, but the schema changes are not. So before we could push anything on production, things are already applied on staging and it has been signed off by QAs. So it is vital to check the number of say tables or number of store procedures or number of functions that should be in sync for the QA environment and in the production environment. If it is not, then there is something wrong. Even we can go one step ahead and check that if the character set on all the tables, whether it is Latin 1 or not. So initially say we have 100 tables wherein the enforcement is done so that every table is supporting Latin 1 as a character set, but 2 newly added tables is missed out on those aspects. So a very straightforward query can give us this result wherein it can come up with list of 2 tables wherein character set is not set to Latin. So this is again the part of automation and could be taken care of very simply. Database security checks. So if it is MySQL as a database, I could directly fire a query to say information schema and check how many users are assigned say super privileges. So if I know that if there are only 3 users to whom we have granted an access for super, and if there is one more being added or seen sometime, directly we can execute some warning labels and we can trigger an email to stop that intrusion. So again, this is not happening on regular basis, but if there is an automation script that keeps on checking these things, it can save us a lot of chaos. Moving further, a lot of times different category of managers will keep on asking for reports or data which is not available from the UI. So what we tend to do is we'll do a connection to production instance, we'll write down the queries, and then we'll grab the figures that my managers might be interested with, and they'll keep on asking this data whether I'm on leave, whether I'm somewhere with my family. So instead, if we could automate this process and all the queries could be labeled in a way wherein things are available and automatically posting results to managers, it would be really great. For example, there is an e-commerce store and there are 200 plus vendors who is dumping their products data. They are offering discounts, they are setting prices, they are adding new products and things like that. Now finally it is my product, my website, wherein I would definitely not like something being listed where discounted price is more than actual price for the product. So it is very straightforward query on a table called say product item, wherein I could say that, okay, give me all the products wherein the discounted price is more than actual price. So even though it's a simple straight query, if I'm putting some automation checks and if I keep on executing this thing, it would be really handy. At times we have seen that the publicly exposed modules are available, but admin modules are not yet built. Still, in order to cater to the admin module reports, we might need to do a connection to database and execute queries. So this could be very useful by an automation tool wherein the queries are listed, it is being executed on regular intervals, and results are mailed back to the users. For example, a new site is launched for its beta version and the stakeholders might be interested in knowing how many users has been signed up in last 7 days. So we know it's a very straightforward SQL query, but when they want the results, it should be available. So we build the query, we prepare the test case, we put it on scheduled execution, and yes, that's done. It is not always the select queries that we might be interested in executing. You might also need to execute some DML operations. So you want to say clean up some junk data from a database. Say there is an import feature built by developers and they are making use of some temporary table before the actual data is posted back to the transactional table. We know that when this particular table is crossing say 5 lakh records, we need to execute some cleanup actions. Otherwise, the import functionality itself is going to be on its knee. So instead of keep on checking select count star from temp and comparing it to 5 lakh records, what I could do is, if the number of records are getting more than say 4,50,000 or say 4,75,000, I should be executing a cleanup action, and that is set for a scheduled execution for trigger to be set every 30 minutes. And that's it. It will automatically take care of things for that temporary table. So cleanup actions definitely could be monitored and executed. At times, the QA members are struggling inserting the test data on QA or dev environment. So when it comes to the bulk data insertion so that they can simulate the production environment issues, the scheduled execution or some automation form of execution would be really handy. So yes, that could also be automated with the help of tools like TestingWhiz. So when it comes to database testing with TestingWhiz, it offers exclusive set of features. To start with, it is codeless approach to do the database testing. It means other than SQL query writing, all other aspects like comparison, branching, looping, same test execution with multiple set of data, everything is codeless. So finally, you will spend less time in order to prepare the automation and complete the data verification. It supports all standard vendors ranging from MySQL, Oracle, IBM DB2, Microsoft SQL Server, and we are already adding support for Teradata and Hadoop. So it supports all databases. Also, the SQL queries can be included as a part of test scripts. It means the functional testing or UI testing can be clubbed together with database testing, and all-in-one kind of testing could be done by the QA engineers as well. When there is a large project or enterprise application being developed or maintained, it is really vital to have reusable piece of components, for example, methods or test scripts. So TestingWhiz is built in a way it offers the reusable components so that it could be used and shared among team members. Once things are prepared, there is an out-of-box capability offered from TestingWhiz so that you can put them on scheduled jobs and you can meet your regression aspects. Finally, it will help reducing the complexity and maintenance for the scripts that you have prepared. And in case after the execution some bugs are found, those bugs with the steps to perform or replicate that particular bug could be listed, and things can be posted to bug tracking tools like Jira, Mantis, or Fogbugs. Even if some test management tools are being used like TestLink or HPQC, the execution history from TestingWhiz can be posted back to the test management tool. So that is offered out of box. So with this initial background, I would like to tour you very quickly through a live demo with the help of TestingWhiz. It might be the case that a few of you guys have not seen TestingWhiz as a tool, and I would suggest that you go to testing-wiz.com/download and download the product, and we would be more than happy to provide you in-person demo for your custom or personalized need. So I'll be switching to TestingWhiz. And here is something. So say for example you would like to carry out some checks wherein a database is being connected and you would like to grab some details. So here is a configuration wherein database is there. You add the connection parameters to databases like MySQL, MS SQL, or Oracle or DB2. You set up the alias which is going to be used in test scripts that you will be writing. Provide the standard parameters like database name, host, port, username, and password. And once you are done, you can check the connection. It will go and do the connection and will let you know if the connection is successful or not. You can add as many connections to the databases you would have. So you might have one connection to your dev environment, one connection to your prod environment. You could also have multiple vendors set up over here. So once this initial configuration is done, with the help of test command, you can say drag and drop the commands. So it says database fetch, and then there is an editor wherein you can select the DB alias, you can write down the SQL query, and based on the result it is going to have, it could either be a single value or an entire result, which can be held on a variable or data table. So this data table is built-in feature to TestingWhiz, and it is like this. So you can add a data table and number of rows that you might want to support. So for our case, say we have this and user as a table. So what I'm going to do is I'll be connecting to secure pub prod, and I'll be grabbing select count star from user. This is going to result me a single value which I'm going to hold in a variable called, say, prod users. And then I can query the same thing to my dev environment DB, and I'll say dev users. So I have one variable called prod users and I have other called dev users. Then I can go and do the comparison like prod users dev users, and that's it. So what it is going to do is, there are two different databases. There is a user table. I'm going to compare the user counts for both of them. If they are equal, so if compare these two, then I'm going to say they are in sync. Else I'll be saying they are not in sync, and I'll be explicitly failing my test case. So let's try and execute this thing. It is supposed to be filled because the number of users in prod database and dev database, they are not same. So yes, as expected, I am seeing a report which got executed on Windows 7.6 as an environment, and it took almost 1 second. And here is the report. Like, this was the first statement, it took almost 200 milliseconds. The second, again 200 milliseconds. And then there was a comparison, and at this particular step, it has failed. So there is a log which says value 1145 and 2 are not equal. So this has failed my test case, saying that the records are not equal. At times I might want to extend my test case. If the records are equal, or say record counts are equal, I might want to compare details row by row. So that also can be possible with the help of a very straightforward commands in TestingWhiz. I might be interested in knowing, say, how many tables in my database are holding rows more than 1000. So since this is MySQL as a database, what I have tried and done is I'm querying something to information schema, and wherever there is table rows more than 1000, I am simply saying that these are the table counts under my radar. And then I'll be comparing this variable against some threshold value set, and if that threshold value is breached, I'll be saying the test case is failed. So what it says is, this is table count under radar, and checking it with value 5. If this is not going to meet, it will fail my test case. So let's try and execute this. So it will be executing my first thing, and then we'll compare it with value 5, and then it will give me result. So again, this is failed because it's not able to connect. Let me check. Okay, so it should be this and this. I don't need this at this point, so I can skip this. Okay, let's execute it once again. So earlier I missed setting the database alias. Now it has done that and it has passed my test case. It means that there would be less than 5 tables wherein number of rows are more than 1000. So it says, yeah, the value 15 is greater than 5 and it has passed the test case. I might want to enforce some standard checks. For example, every of my table should be having a primary key. So again, I can go and execute some simple query to information schema, and I can make a join to information schema table constraint, and I can list down, or say I can count number of tables wherein primary key as a constraint is missing. If I know upfront that if there are, say, already 10 tables wherein this criteria is not met, so instead of checking that to say 0, I can go and check it to 15. Means 15 tables are excluded from the entire schema, otherwise all tables should be having a primary key. So I can go and do that and compare it against value 15. So I can execute this again and check whether it is passing or not. So for my purpose, there are not more than 15 tables wherein primary key is missing. So it says, so value 19. So already 19 tables is meeting that criteria and it has passed my test case. So you can also execute all these things in one single go, or you can also put it under schedule execution. Like you can specify the job name, say DB testing job. You can browse to the product. You can set the trigger execution to every minute, or say twice an hour, or once a week, once a month, or to be set to some custom expression like it should be executed every 10th, say 20th and 30th minute, or say 31st minute past an hour. So it will generate the cron expression, and this particular file will be executed every 10th, 20th and 31st minute past an hour, and I can say send the execution reports to stakeholders at TestingWhiz.com. So this will keep on executing, and I could also see the trend analysis for the past execution of all the executions that is done. We could also set up some bug tracking tools like Mantis, Jira and Fogbugs. So say for example, if it is Mantis wherein we would like to post the bugs, or say Jira, then there is a local configuration set for Jira. I'll try and see if the connection is still up for that local machine. If the connection is available and if something is failing, then the failed test case would be posted in the bug tracking tool called Jira. So there is an out-of-box support offered. So it seems that the local machine is not available. You can check if Mantis is available. Yeah. So we'll go and try and put a bug reported for Mantis. So I'll be executing the entire suite wherein there are 3 test cases. The first was failing and the other 2 were passing. So I have executed the entire test suite. Yeah, and it has come up with the result stating the 33% of test cases are failing and 66 is passing. So my job now is to log the defect to Mantis, to this particular URL. So I have connected with my user wherein I have given an access to these many projects. I can say dummy project. On the left, there would be only one test case which is failed is being shown, so that I can post the details for this. I can also add some custom notes I want to add, and then I can say submit. So it will be posting data to the bug tracking tool, and I'll be given an ID. So at times if something is not working, instead of just failing the test case, what I could do is I can also send out an email from within the tool. So I can say to dba@testingwiz.com, alert level 1, please check health for secure pop pro, and that is it. So what I want to do is, before I mark a test case as failed, I would like to send out an email. Then write down something in the logs and then fail the test case. So when this test case is executed, and if this condition is not met, what I want to do is I would like to fail the test case. So this thing is offered out of box from TestingWhiz. So a lot of things could be done. You could define variables, you could define methods, you can call them up, you can pass the parameters, and all kind of standard programming can be done with the help of TestingWhiz. So with this small demo, I would like to conclude on the presentation part, and I would be inviting questions that you might have and the curiosities you might have for database testing aspects, for its automation, or TestingWhiz as a tool. Over to you. Look at the tool, and in case there are any questions, we would be happy answering them. You could reach us to info@testing-wiz.com, or you can connect us at 855-699-6600. It was a very cool audience. Thank you very much for your time, and have a nice day.
Thank you, Nirav, and I'd like to thank all of you for joining our webinar. We will be coming up with more of such sessions in coming month. Do join, and we are happy to serve you on your customized requirements. Do drop an email at info@testingwiz.com, and we'll be serving you on your one-to-one basis. Thank you.